Please welcome Senate Foreign Relations Committee member, Senator Cory Booker.
Hello. Good morning. Oh, you all have to help me out a little bit. I grew up in a small black church where call and response is so important. Good morning. Oh, that is really good. In fact, if I was still running for president, I'd pass a collection plate right now. It is so good to be here in front of a crowd that is so representative of who we are. There are people from all over our nation. There are people from all over the political spectrum. Today, we are united in our firm purpose, unequivocally and resolutely. We believe in the state of Israel. We believe in the unshakable bond between our countries. We believe that Israel is our indispensable ally in an increasingly dangerous region and complex world. We believe in the right of Israel to defend itself against aggressors and terrorists. And we will stand with our ally in their defense and fully support them, ensuring that they have the means and the resources to provide for their security and ours. Now, I am the senator from New Jersey. And I have to say, I am so grateful to know there is so much Jersey in this room. I want to thank all of the New Jerseyans who are committed to this movement, who traveled so far down to participate in this important conference. In fact, 10%, 1 out of every 10 people in this room is from the state of New Jersey. And I want to give my gratitude to one of my constituents in particular, Mort Friedman, a friend of mine. For many years, he is now the chairman of the board of AIPAC, and I'm grateful to him and the entire board for the invitation to speak today. Now, I live in Newark, New Jersey. This is, I love to hear the cheers over there. The Newark diaspora is wonderful. As many of you know, Newark is the home of Rabbi Yocham Prince. For those of you who don't know, he was an extraordinary rabbi who stood steadfast against the Nazis and was expelled from Berlin in the 1930s. In the United States, he saw the injustices traveling around the country, fighting for the support of Israel. He saw the challenges of injustice and segregation in the South, and he joined with civil rights advocates, knowing that it was critical for the Jewish people's struggle for freedom, that he joins in the larger, intrinsically tied freedom of the struggle of Black Americans. It was because of his conviction, his activism, his leadership that he had a distinction. In 1963, he was chosen as one of only 5 speakers to speak on the March on Washington. He spoke in the unenviable position of being right before Martin Luther King. But his speech was profound. He spoke about the dangers of being silent in the face of injustice. And he also talked about the urgency and the importance of us to understand the bonds between us and the strength that comes through our unity. He said, and I quote, "The time, I believe, has come to work together, for it is not enough to hope together. It is not enough to pray together, to work together." In that moral moment, as in this one, that is our call. It is our strength. It is our hope. It lies within our ability to come together as diverse peoples, to stand together resolutely, and to work together. I say this because I have been all over this country speaking to what I believe is the challenge in this time. This is not a moment in our nation about left or right. It is a moment of us knowing right and wrong. And too much in America right now, we are a nation increasingly divided. God, when it comes to our purpose, we need a revival in America of civic grace. We need in our country to understand that patriotism is love of country, and you cannot love your country unless you love your fellow countrymen and women. And love is not sentimentality, it is and calls for sacrifice and struggle. It calls to working beyond our differences to find common ground, to affirm the truth that we share common values, that we have common purpose and common cause, and thus we must stand on common ground. And I come here today to say to you with this spirit, knowing this urgency, knowing the need to bring this country together, to reaffirm the truth that America's support for Israel is common ground. America's partnership with Israel has never been and must never become a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It must always be an American issue, a bipartisan issue, our issue. This is our truth. It reflects our love of all people. It is this deep bond between the United States and Israel that has always derived its power from the fact that it has very little to do with what party or person is in power in either country. It has to do with the truth of who we are, how we treat each other, how much we're willing to sacrifice for each other, how deep our love is. As a United States Senator, I see it as my obligation, my duty to protect the bipartisan nature of this sacred friendship between Israel and the United States. And I call on all of us, no matter what your party, no matter what your race or religion, I call on all of us, everyone in this room and everyone outside of it, who care deeply about preserving that essential bond between our two nations. I call on you to guard against those who insidiously try to politicize the American-Israeli partnership for their own gain or divide us against each other, because together, as Rabbi Prince said in that moral moment, in that time, together we have work to do. There is no greater illustration of that than that ancient evil that is on the rise of anti-Semitism. We see it here at home when Jews are killed in their synagogue in Pittsburgh and in a kosher grocery store in my state in New Jersey. We see that hatred rising around the globe. There is an urgency before us. We together have work to do. As long as the people of Israel have to live under the constant threat of indiscriminate violence, whether it's emanating from Iran's destabilizing actions in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Syria, or from Hezbollah or Hamas or other terrorist groups, we must always, as a matter of human values, stand for Israel's security and defense. Together, we have work to do. As long as Israeli citizens live under the horrifying threat of rocket attacks, We must continue our support for the Iron Dome, for Israel defense systems, for critical intelligence cooperation and key technology and resources essential for Israel's defense. As a senator, I will not equivocate. I will not hesitate. I will always support those programs, that resources, our partnerships, because together we have work to do. When amendments are introduced in the Foreign Relations Committee to try to block aid to Israel, when the dangerous boycott, divestment, and sanctions, BDS campaigns try to undermine and isolate Israel, silence is complicity. We must always speak out against them. We must always stand against them. Together we have work to do. Like you, I have long advocated for a two-state solution because it is the only pathway to a lasting peace. Those of us gathered together here today know that we stand for Israel's safety, security, and the right to exist as a Jewish state. We know that we must also, therefore, then stand for the human dignity, the human rights, the safety and self-determination of the Palestinian people. This, you know, are Jewish values. The love of neighbors. It's the Jewish value that sent Goodman and Cheney and Schwerner, black and white, Christian and Jewish. This value is why they died together in Mississippi. These are Jewish values. Tzedakah and chesed. It's core to the very ideals of what it means to be a human. It is Jewish values said by Hillel, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, then what am I? These are Jewish values. It's the song sung during the high holidays. Ki beiti beit tefillah l'chol choamim. May my house be a house of prayer for many nations. These are Jewish values. These are human values. They are our pathway to peace and security for all people. Lasting peace will be achieved when we renounce hatred and terrorism, when we sit down with our neighbors, Jew and Muslim, Israeli and Palestinians, and forge a pathway to that which has been dreamt of for generations. This is the pathway to peace. It's a pathway to strength. It's the understanding of what we must do together. Together we have work to do. But I want to say today, too often we talk about the conflict and the challenges, but we don't celebrate the truth and the fullness of Israel. It's important that we note what we all know. We support Israel not just because it is in our national security interest to do so, but because of what Israel means for the world. To ensure Israel's security means we are enabling and empowering a democratic nation of disproportionate innovation and ingenuity to do the work that is literally tikkun olam, literally repairing the world. Israel is helping to lead all of humanity in pioneering new technologies and developments to take on threats from global climate change to the looming crisis of global water security to global health epidemics. Israel is helping to lead humanity out of the darkness, out of the valley of the shadow of death. A nation of innovation, of creativity, and leadership for the greater good of all peoples, as Isaiah said, a light unto all nations. A light unto all nations. Those are Israel's values, and those are American values. This is our shared dream. On one of my many trips to Israel, long before I was a senator, my Israeli friend pointed out to me Mount Nebo. This was the mountain God allowed Moses to climb up to and look over and see the promised land. It is also the mountain that Martin Luther King spoke of in his final speech of his life when he said, "I have been to the mountaintop, and I've looked over, and I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." Martin Luther King went to bed that night, April 3rd, and he woke on April 4th there at the Lorraine Motel. And soon after he woke in the morning, he went out onto the balcony and he was slain by an assassin's bullet. If you go to that site today at the Lorraine Motel, now a museum, if you go there, you will see written on a block of stone where he was killed the words of the Torah, words of the Old Testament. It's the words of Joseph's brothers, the words they uttered before they threw him into a pit to die, but he did not die in that pit. He rose up to lead a nation through crisis. The words written there where King was slain, the words of Joseph's brothers are these: "Behold, here cometh the dreamer. Let us slay him, and we shall see what becomes of his dreams." My brothers and sisters, what will become of the dream? The dream of our ancestors, the dream of Israel, the dream of America. We have that dream in our hands now. What will become of the dreams? It falls on us right now, right here. What will become of the dreams? The dreams of peace and justice for all, for black and white and brown, Muslim and Christian and Jew, Israeli, American, Palestinian. What will become of our dream? Will it be degraded and diminished? Will it become divided against itself? Or will we, the Joshua generation, will we reclaim the dream? Will we reclaim the hope? Will we reclaim the promise of our ancestors who sacrificed and struggled and bled and died for the dream? What will become of the dream on our watch? Will we turn not against each other, but to each other? Will we lift each other up and not tear each other down? Will we work together so that in our generation, we will fulfill the prophecies of old? We will ensure that swords are finally beaten into plowshares. We will ensure that in our generation, justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Will we ensure that the dreams of those before us, that small black children and white children and brown children and Muslim children and Christian children and Jewish children will finally join hands and sing in a chorus of love that we are free at last, free from fear, free from violence, free from hate. That is the work we must do together with love. We together will keep America safe. We together will keep Israel safe. We will tikkun olam. We will keep between us an unbreakable, unshakable bond. Oh yes, my brothers and sisters, there is work to do, but my faith and my hope and my love know that we will rescue the dream. We will ensure that Israel and America remain a light unto all nations. May God bless you. May God bless Israel. May God bless all of God's children. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.